The courtroom at the federal courthouse in Washington, D.C., was steeped in intense silence as Karoline Leavitt, the White House press secretary, stepped through the heavy wooden doors. Her hand tightly gripped the leash of Bruno, a German shepherd with a long, jagged scar running down his left flank. Every eye in the room turned toward her as she made her way to the center, her steps both hesitant and resolute. Bruno, calm yet vigilant, paced steadily beside her, his ears perked, ready to detect anything out of the ordinary. Karoline was no ordinary witness. She was present as the White House spokesperson, overseeing the high-profile trial of Victor Grayson, a former Pentagon official suspected of espionage for China. Her role was crucial, to ensure sensitive information remained protected. But an unsettling question lingered: could she uncover something others had missed? Judge Daniel Harper, a seasoned legal veteran with silver-streaked hair, leaned forward slightly, observing Karoline with a calm yet piercing gaze. He understood the gravity of the case. It carried significant national security implications. Across the courtroom, Victor Grayson sat at the defendant's table, his expression eerily composed, almost smug. At 50, he had once been an unremarkable military analyst, but now he stood accused of selling classified national security secrets to a foreign power. Grayson's arrest had come after a tip indicated he had attended a clandestine meeting with Chinese operatives. Yet, his defense remained formidable: no concrete physical evidence, no confession, and a legal team determined to dismantle every accusation. Then, something unexpected happened. As Karoline took her seat, her sharp green eyes met Grayson's. Her fingers trembled slightly before she made a subtle gesture, a secret signal known only to those with specialized training. It was the cue she had coordinated with Bruno, a dog trained by the Trump administration to detect listening devices and suspicious behavior. Only two figures in the courtroom recognized the signal: Bruno and Judge Harper. Bruno's reaction was instantaneous. As Karoline's fingers tapped lightly on the table in a silent command, the dog's body stiffened. His ears pricked forward, his muscles coiled like a spring ready to launch. A low, menacing growl rumbled from his chest, his golden brown eyes locking onto Grayson with unwavering intensity. The reaction sent a chill through the room. Murmurs rippled through the onlookers. Bruno's behavior wasn't just that of a trained detection dog, it was something deeper, almost primal. Judge Harper slammed his gavel against the bench, its sharp crack echoing through the courtroom. "Court is recessed for 15 minutes, he declared, his voice carrying an unusual urgency. Prosecutor Anna Reynolds shot him a questioning look, but Harper didn't respond. Instead, he glanced at Karoline, who stood beside Bruno as though the dog were her anchor. Something significant had just happened, and he needed time to process it before proceeding. As the courtroom emptied, Harper remained in his seat, his mind racing. In all his years on the bench, he had never seen a trained dog react with such eerie certainty. What had Bruno detected? And, more importantly, what did it mean for the case? Outside in the hallway, Karoline knelt beside Bruno, gripping his fur tightly. Her mother, Margaret Leavitt, bent down beside her, brushing a hand over her daughter's hair with trembling fingers. "Are you okay, sweetheart?" she whispered. Karoline didn't answer. She didn't need to. Her grip on Bruno tightened, pressing into him as if seeking comfort. A few steps away, FBI agent Ethan Brooks observed the scene. A seasoned investigator, Brooks had cracked numerous high-stakes cases, and his instincts told him that what had just happened in the courtroom was a turning point. He approached Judge Harper, his voice low. "I'd bet my badge Bruno picked up something off about Grayson," Brooks said. Judge Harper exhaled slowly, his deep blue eyes narrowing. His sharp gaze cut through the uncertainty. "Then we need to figure out what it is," he replied, his tone resolute. In a private holding room, Victor Grayson sat across from his attorney, Thomas Reed. Alone now, the smugness on his face melted away, replaced by a cold, calculating expression. His fingers drummed against the wooden table, his mind replaying the moment in the courtroom. Karoline hadn't said a word. But that dog had reacted. Grayson muttered under his breath, "She knows something." Reed raised an eyebrow. "What?" Grayson forced a strange smile. "Nothing," he said. But inside, his mind raced. That damn dog. He hadn't counted on it being a problem. But now, he realized, Bruno might be the key to unraveling his entire scheme. As the 15-minute recess ended, the tension in the courtroom was palpable. Victor Grayson, once so composed, now sat motionless at the defense table, a flicker of unease betraying him. Prosecutor Anna Reynolds prepared to resume questioning, but all attention zeroed in on Karoline Leavitt and Bruno, the German shepherd with the long scar along his left flank. Bruno was no ordinary dog. Trained under the Trump administration, he was an elite detection animal, specialized in uncovering hidden devices, explosives, and erratic behavior. His presence at the trial wasn't merely symbolic, it was a top-secret security measure that Karoline had insisted upon. Anna Reynolds stepped forward, her voice sharp yet controlled. "Your Honor, we have evidence that Mr. Grayson communicated with Chinese operatives for months, passing classified Pentagon information." She presented a stack of documents. Thomas Reed immediately rose to his feet. "Objection. This is pure speculation, Your Honor," he argued smoothly. "No recordings, no photos, just testimony from unreliable sources." Karoline, seated near the prosecution table, tilted her head slightly as she studied Grayson. Something about his reaction caught her attention. The way his fists clenched when Reed mentioned recordings, a telltale sign of stress she had seen in high-pressure White House briefings. Without hesitation, she tapped her fingers lightly on the table. Bruno's response was immediate. He sprang to his feet, ears erect, nose working rapidly to sniff the air. Then, with laser focus, he bolted toward the defendant's table, his body tense. Sniffing around Grayson's chair, a low growl rumbled from his chest. His golden brown eyes locked onto the space beneath the table. A wave of murmurs spread through the courtroom. Judge Harper banged his gavel sharply. "What's happening, Ms. Leavitt?" His tone was demanding. Karoline stood, her voice steady. "Your Honor, Bruno is trained to detect listening devices. I believe there's something in this room that hasn't been seen yet." Ethan Brooks, stationed near the door, moved in swiftly. He knelt beside Bruno, following the dog's lead. Under Grayson's table, he found a small black device, no larger than a coin. The room fell into stunned silence. Judge Harper's sharp gaze settled on Victor Grayson. The game had just changed. Blinking with a faint red light, the device in Ethan Brooks' hand sent a chill through the silent courtroom. "A listening device," he announced, his voice cutting through the tension like a blade. At the defendant's table, Victor Grayson paled, his hands visibly trembling. Judge Harper slammed his gavel down harder than ever. "Court is adjourned. I'm ordering an immediate sweep of this entire area," he declared, his icy gaze locked onto Grayson. Across the room, Prosecutor Anna Reynolds glanced at Karoline Leavitt, her expression a mix of awe and admiration. Meanwhile, Thomas Reed leaned in close to his client, whispering frantically. Karoline stood still, her hand resting lightly on Bruno's head, her green eyes gleaming with confidence. As the echoes of Judge Harper's gavel faded, the security team at the federal courthouse in Washington, D.C., sprang into action. Ethan Brooks, still gripping the small device found beneath Grayson's table, handed it to a technician. He then turned to Judge Harper, his voice firm. "We need to analyze this immediately." Brooks, a seasoned FBI agent with graying hair and sharp brown eyes, had spent decades unraveling international espionage cases. He studied the device closely, muttering under his breath, "I've seen these before. Chinese tech. Unmistakable." His partner, Olivia Bennett, stepped up beside Karoline, who remained steady next to Bruno. Olivia's voice was soft but unwavering. "Ms. Leavitt, did you notice anything unusual before signaling?" Karoline gave a slight nod, her hand resting gently on Bruno's head to keep him calm. "I saw Grayson tense up when the prosecutor mentioned recordings. His reaction didn't match his earlier confidence." Her tone was crisp yet composed, a reflection of her years navigating high-pressure situations as White House press secretary. Olivia and Ethan exchanged a glance. "Body language," Olivia murmured. "He's hiding something." Anna Reynolds approached, clutching her files. Her eyes flashed with determination. "If that device was active, it could have recorded everything in this room, including what Grayson didn't want us to hear." Ethan exhaled sharply, rubbing his temple. "We need more than that. A listening device alone won't directly link him to China, not unless it contains incriminating data." Anna turned to Karoline. "Are you sure Bruno only reacted to this device?" Karoline's lips curved into a faint smile. "Bruno is trained to detect threats, devices, explosives, even unusual behavior. If he alerted, it's not just about this device." Meanwhile, outside the courtroom, an unexpected witness emerged. Helen Parker, a retired Pentagon employee who had once worked under Grayson, approached Ethan. Her voice was steady but laced with urgency. "I heard about the dog," she said. "I have information." Ethan studied her carefully. "Go on." Helen took a deep breath. "I saw Grayson meeting someone in the Pentagon parking lot. He handed something over. I don't know what, but I remember the other car's license plate. It started with XJR." Ethan's eyes lit up. "That's a lead." He jotted it down quickly. Helen hesitated before adding, "I didn't speak up sooner because I was scared. But if he's really a spy, I can't stay silent anymore." As security teams swept the courtroom, Karoline stood alone with Bruno in the hallway, her hand stroking his fur. She felt the weight of the moment. This wasn't just a legal battle, it was a fight to protect national security. A responsibility the White House had entrusted to her. Bruno looked up at her, his golden brown eyes filled with unwavering loyalty. "We'll get to the truth, buddy," she whispered. But deep down, she knew, Grayson wasn't working alone. And the listening device was just the beginning. Inside the FBI's temporary office at the courthouse, Ethan Brooks summoned the tech team to analyze the device. The air smelled of sanitizer, and the room buzzed with the hum of equipment. Bruno sat beside Karoline, his posture alert but calm. His long scar, a reminder of his past, stood out against his sleek fur. Once one of the finest K-9s in national security, Bruno had been trained by a specialized unit under the Trump administration. He had detected threats invisible to humans, saved lives in counter-terrorism operations, and nearly sacrificed his own. His injury had almost ended his career. But Karoline had insisted on keeping him as her partner. Through the glass door, Ethan watched them. "That dog's not just a pet," he muttered to Olivia. "He's our secret weapon." Olivia nodded. "And Karoline knows exactly how to use it. If Grayson's a spy, Bruno will be the one to expose him." Bruno had once been deemed unfit for service after his injury in an anti-terror raid. That was before Rachel Morgan, an expert animal trainer with the National Security Unit, stepped in. Morgan had spent years training dogs for high-risk operations. When she heard about Bruno's case, she fought to keep him in service, convinced that his sharp instincts and unwavering loyalty were still invaluable. Now, at the federal courthouse in Washington, D.C., she was about to see that belief pay off. In the FBI's temporary office, Karoline stood with Bruno at her side, gripping his leash tightly. Rachel knelt to Bruno's level, her voice calm yet firm. "Hey, Bruno," she said softly. "You're a special dog, aren't you? Trained to catch what humans miss." Bruno didn't move. He just watched her, steady and unthreatening. Rachel looked up at Karoline. Want to test his skills? Karoline nodded. I saw him react in the courtroom. If there's anything else off, Bruno will find it. Rachel gave a small command. Search. Bruno rose instantly, sniffing the air, as he moved slowly toward a corner of the room. Karoline's pulse quickened as he paused near a chair, his nose pressed close to the floor. Rachel gave her a nod. If you're ready, give the signal. Karoline tapped her fingers lightly on the table, the secret cue she and Bruno had trained with for years. Bruno reacted immediately. Lowering his head, he stepped forward, inching toward the chair. Then, as his nose brushed the chair's leg, he froze. His ears perked. A low, guttural growl rumbled from his chest. Ethan Brooks rushed over, following Bruno's lead. Kneeling, he reached beneath the chair cushion and retrieved a small object. Not a listening device, but something worse. A miniature signal transmitter, Ethan said, his voice laced with astonishment. Encrypted tech. It could send data out without anyone realizing it. Anna Reynolds entered the room, gripping a stack of files. Her breath caught when she saw the device. This is what we need, she said, her voice trembling with excitement. If Grayson used this in the courtroom, every lie he told could have been sent straight to his accomplices. Ethan nodded, though his expression remained cautious. We need to analyze its data. If it ties back to China, he's got no way out. Karoline remained still, her fingers gently stroking Bruno's fur. Since taking him in under the Trump administration's recommendation, she had known Bruno wasn't just a dog, he was her second set of eyes and ears. He was her shield, her partner. And he had just cracked the case wide open. The trial that shook Washington, Karoline Leavitt, Bruno, and the espionage scandal. The tension in the courtroom was thick as Karoline Leavitt watched Bruno execute a search command. Good job, she whispered, her voice barely audible. Ethan Brooks, standing nearby, turned in surprise. Karoline rarely displayed emotion. She gave a faint smile, her eyes shimmering with trust. Rachel Morgan, a top animal training expert, placed a hand on Ethan's shoulder and murmured, "She trusts him." And sometimes, trust is the first step to uncovering the truth. As the trial resumed, the courtroom was packed with journalists, government officials, and legal experts eager to witness the next turn in one of Washington, D.C.'s most high-profile espionage cases. At the defense table, Victor Grayson sat with an eerie calm, his fingers tapping rhythmically on the polished wooden surface. His once confident demeanor was fading, replaced by a subtle but growing unease. Karoline, standing near the prosecution, held Bruno's leash firmly. The German shepherd remained alert, his ears pricked and golden brown eyes fixed on Grayson. Occasionally, his nose twitched, as if catching a scent invisible to the human eye. "Rise," the courtroom clerk announced as Judge Daniel Harper entered, his black robe billowing slightly. Taking his seat, Harper's sharp gaze scanned the room before landing briefly on Karoline and Bruno. His ruling allowing Bruno to remain in the courtroom had been controversial, but given the national security implications, it was necessary. Before opening statements could begin, Thomas Reed, Grayson's defense attorney, stood. Adjusting his tie, he addressed the judge. "Your Honor, while we respect the government's claims, having a large German shepherd in the courtroom is prejudicial. It could influence the jury's emotions and unfairly disadvantage my client. We request its removal during testimony." Prosecutor Anna Reynolds immediately countered. "Your Honor, Bruno isn't a mere symbol, he's a specially trained national security asset. His presence ensures the integrity of these proceedings, given the threat of espionage and tampering. Removing him would compromise the very security we are here to protect." Judge Harper leaned back in his chair, his expression unreadable. After a brief pause, he delivered his ruling. I have reviewed the reports from national security experts. The dog stays. A ripple of murmurs spread through the courtroom. Reed pressed his lips together, clearly displeased but unwilling to challenge the judge further. The testimony that changed everything. The prosecution laid out a chilling case. A years-long espionage network orchestrated by Victor Grayson, feeding classified Pentagon intelligence to China. Witnesses took the stand, including Helen Parker, a retired Pentagon employee. She recounted seeing Grayson handing off documents to an unidentified figure in a parking lot. He was careful, like he knew he was being watched, she said, her hands trembling as she clasped them together. Karoline listened intently, her grip tightening on Bruno's leash. Her eyes never left Grayson. Whenever the tension in the room grew suffocating, she found comfort in Bruno's steady presence. Then came the pivotal moment. Anna Reynolds turned to Karoline. Miss Leavitt, we know you're not a direct witness, but your expertise and Bruno's instincts have been critical to this case. Can you describe what happened? Karoline didn't answer immediately. Instead, she tapped her fingers lightly on the stand, her secret signal. Bruno reacted instantly. He stood, sniffing the air rapidly, then bolted toward the defense table. A low growl rumbled from his throat, his intense gaze locked onto Grayson. The courtroom fell into stunned silence. Judge Harper leaned forward, his expression intrigued. Karoline remained composed, stroking Bruno's fur for reassurance. Anna's voice was firm but calm. Miss Leavitt, can you tell us what prompted you to signal Bruno? Karoline finally looked up, her eyes sharp with certainty. Then, without hesitation, she pointed directly at Victor Grayson. A flicker of tension crossed Grayson's face. His fingers, once tapping steadily, clenched into fists. Defense attorney Thomas Reed leaped up. Objection. This is pure theatrics, he argued. Judge Harper raised a hand, silencing him. Overruled. The jury will assess the credibility of this testimony. Anna took a step closer. Miss Leavitt, did Mr. Grayson's behavior raise any suspicion? Instead of answering, Karoline gave another discreet hand signal. Bruno responded immediately. His ears shot up, muscles tensed, and he let out another deep, steady growl, not aggression, but a warning. The reaction sent a chill through the room. Judge Harper's brows furrowed. Miss Reynolds, he said slowly, has this dog ever encountered the defendant before? Anna hesitated. Not to my knowledge, Your Honor. Harper turned his piercing gaze toward Grayson. Mr. Grayson, have you ever had contact with this dog before? For the first time, Grayson's composed exterior cracked. His hands clenched tighter, his jaw tightened, but he remained silent. Anna's eyes widened as if realizing something critical. She whispered something to Ethan Brooks, who bolted out of the courtroom. What's happening? Reed demanded, his patience wearing thin. Anna remained poised. Your Honor, I request a brief recess. We may have just uncovered new evidence. Harper studied her carefully before nodding. 15-minute recess. As murmurs erupted across the courtroom, one question loomed over them all. What had Bruno recognized in Victor Grayson? The warehouse that held the truth. The next morning, with Washington, D.C. still reeling from the trial's latest revelation, Anna Reynolds addressed the court. Your Honor, we've analyzed the transmitter Bruno discovered. The data points to an abandoned warehouse in rural Virginia. We request a 24-hour recess to investigate further. This could be the final piece of evidence to close this case. Reed objected. This is a stalling tactic. Judge Harper, unmoved, granted the motion. The court is recessed for 24 hours. That afternoon, the investigative team arrived at the warehouse. Dust coated the floors, but faint footprints led toward a back door. Bruno tensed immediately, his nose working overtime, body rigid with anticipation. Inside, the space was nearly empty, except for a table, a folding cot, and a pile of discarded food cans. But Ethan noticed something odd, a hollow sound beneath a wooden floorboard. Prying it open, the team uncovered a hidden staircase. Descending into the dimly lit basement, they found stacks of old electronics, encrypted hard drives, and documents detailing military intelligence transfers to China. Ethan cracked open a locked safe, revealing a hard drive and classified Pentagon reports. His voice was breathless with realization. This is it. This is the proof we need. The final blow. Back in court, the evidence was presented. The documents, the hard drive, the footprints, everything linked directly to Grayson. Anna's voice was unyielding. Mr. Grayson, how do you explain classified Pentagon documents hidden in a warehouse connected to you? For the first time, Grayson looked shaken. I don't know what you're talking about, he stammered. Anna pressed forward. Your fingerprints are on the safe. Your tire tracks match those outside. And this hard drive contains your entire espionage network. A deep silence fell over the courtroom. Then Bruno, lying at Caroline's feet, suddenly lifted his head, ears perked. His fur bristled, and he let out a low, knowing growl. Grayson visibly flinched. His arrogance shattered. He turned to his lawyer, whispering frantically, then muttered, I want to change my plea. Gasps echoed through the courtroom. Judge Harper's voice was sharp. Are you saying you wish to plead guilty? Grayson exhaled shakily. Yes. The courtroom erupted. Victor Grayson was sentenced to life without parole. But the true hero wasn't just the prosecution, the FBI, or the judge. It was Karoline Leavitt, and a loyal German shepherd named Bruno.